What's up, everybody? Welcome into yet another edition of the Baseline Jumper podcast, recorded, as always, on Taco Tuesday. I've been waiting a while to do that. My name is Jason Goldstein. Please don't shut us off. Alongside Ben McDonald. Ben, how are you? Happy Taco Tuesday.
Oh my God. That was my favorite intro you've ever done. I love it. We've got Jason Bronny Goldstein. And let me tell you something, Jason. Unlike the USA stars, I would never turn down an invite to your podcast. I just want to let you know that.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. And I hope you're enjoying your Taco Tuesday. You had some time off. We took a week off. There was so much to digest in the off season. We had free agency. We had the draft coming off the finals. We took a week, then traveled the country. I ran Rugged Maniac, which was like a mini Tough Mudder. So I'm still sore from that. But a lot's changed in the NBA, even though there's not much to talk about. Tim Duncan's back as an assistant coach with the Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you still have some free agents out there, but you know the summer's really in full effect, and we have Team USA training camp coming up next. So really not too much to talk about, Ben, but we'll pick up right where we left off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We didn't miss a whole lot. There wasn't a lot going on.
We
There've
should have
been
did a show last week and dedicated it to Tim Duncan, though.
I know. It's great to see him back on the bench for the Spurs. And it's kind of interesting just to see, this has been sort of a week where people are giving their thoughts. I've seen this week, one of the things I've seen that's kind of interesting is suddenly we have a week of like takes of people analyzing the things that have happened. So there's more time for people to give their thoughts on things and less actual things occurring, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes a total amount of sense. I'm just pulling up some info here because once again, all eyes in the basketball world would be on Las Vegas. Isn't it weird though? They do summer league, then they take a month off, and then they go back to Vegas. I mean, the NBA loves Vegas in the summer, don't they?
They do, and now that sports betting's legal, I bet they're going to like it even more because Vegas is going to be a cash cow for the NBA, and we're actually going to be debuting a segment either this week or next, depending on time allowing, regarding that too, because we're going to be talking about some bets for the folks here who are listening who might be interested in putting a little bit of a wager down in the upcoming NBA season. And since we know that this is the betting season where there's not as much to watch and there's a lot more thinking and analyzing to do, we're going to talk about that. But otherwise, Jason, there were some other developments that we wanted to tackle, which were a number of stars deciding that they were no longer interested in the USA basketball experience, at least for the upcoming World Championships. Damian Lillard decides to leave after a number of other guys have opted out. And that prompted USA Basketball to add a few new guys. They added Jaylen Brown and Montrezl Harrell, and a few others, Julius Randle. So there's a bunch of these guys who got added to the team. I think maybe, and I have one more, obviously, which is Thaddeus Young, my newest bull. And with that, it's kind of interesting, Jason, because we've seen this happen before, right? Where these teams end up a little bit, shall we say, under talented than what you might expect. They don't really have the full cadre of NBA players, and the last time we saw this was about 16 years ago or so, where
No,
the
I would say
USA team.
2015, I think we saw this because they came off the gold in London, and then it was a bit of a changing in the guard with guys like LeBron not wanting to go back and Chris Paul. So 2015, I mean, you saw a guy like Mason Plumlee make Team USA and play in the FIBA World Championships, and he was coming off his second year in the NBA. So they really scraped the bottom of the barrel. But this time I think it's worse because you mentioned Dame Lillard. You have guys like Kevin Love, Anthony Davis, James Harden,
Yeah.
all these guys who were locks to play for Team USA opting to sit the summer out to get ready for training camp. Now, they have every right to do so. But before Ben and I get into our ideal 12-man rosters for the FIBA Worlds coming up, I think a month from tomorrow they start in China. Do you think a lot of these guys who are opting out this summer should be allowed to just say, all right, well, I'm going to get my spot in the 2020 Olympic team for Tokyo? Do you think that should be allowed?
I mean, I think it doesn't send the best message, but at the same time, I mean, the truth of it, Jason, is just that, I mean, I'm certainly not going to pick against the U.S. in these World Championships, but I don't think with the talent that the U.S. is a lock. There's not really a single superstar on the roster. And I do feel like on some level, if guys are going to play it that way, it might behoove USA basketball to really try and get some of these guys to commit, that are younger and maybe ask them for more of a commitment to try and get them to stay. Obviously, if they have an injury, there's nothing you can do. But for those guys who aren't injured, I mean, we look at a guy like, we'll touch on this in a second, but Kyle Lowry, I mean, if you aren't a fan of Kyle Lowry before these World Championships, I mean, I don't know how you can fail to be one after, given that this guy is basically injured now. He's going to rehab and just try to jump straight in because he's so excited and proud to play for his country. I mean, that's just awesome. I mean, I have so much respect for Lowry. I mean, obviously he just won a title and now he just wants to play for his country, wants to get out there in spite of injuries. I mean, I love that. And on some level, it would be cool to have a little bit more of that, to have a few more players who say, I just want to, play in the red, white, and blue. I want to try and win a championship for my country.
Yeah, Kyle Lowry's trying to become Mr. North America. He wins an NBA championship in Toronto, and then he tries to win a FIBA World Championship for the United States. So Kyle Lowry's trying to do what has never been done before, and that's be named Mr. North America. So props to him. But do you want to get into who we think will make the 12-man rosters? Because training camp begins on Monday in Las Vegas. So by the time we record next week, there'll be a couple of practices in the books already. So you want to give it a crack here?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, as we mentioned, one of the things that really stands out that I wanted to talk about really quickly before we get in. I mean, who do you think is the best player out of the pool here, Jason? I mean, I think your choices are probably maybe Kemba Walker, Donovan Mitchell. I mean, what do you think? Who's the best player in the Team USA pool at this point?
I mean, based on merit and their NBA accomplishments, you'd have to go with the 2 point guards, Kemba Walker and Kyle Lowry. I mean, Mitchell's still a rising star. Ditto for Jason Tatum. A lot of these guys haven't proven as much at the NBA level as we would like guys to that are representing our country on a world stage. But, Lowry's the seasoned vet of this team, no bones about it. He was on the 2016 Olympic gold medal winning team. Granted, he rode the bench. Now he gets a chance to shine and show Greg Popovich, hey, I want to be on this roster for Tokyo. Chris Paul's getting up there in age. Russell Westbrook kind of stopped playing. Steph Curry wasn't too into Olympic basketball. So Lowry wants to be the starting point guard on this team, following the likes of Jason Kidd, Chris Paul. So I think it's a great look for him, but I think these 2 point guards are head and shoulders above the rest here.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's kind of crazy to think about is there's a possibility that for the upcoming season, not a single player on this team makes an All-Star team. The only guy I think who made an All-Star team off the current team is Kemba Walker. So that tells you something. But without further ado, I'll jump in. So I think let's start with the locks here, Jason, because I kind of want to go back and forth here and see where we had. So I think the obvious locks are Kemba. Kemba's a lock. I would say I think Lowry's a lock. I think Brook Lopez is a lock. Middleton's a lock. Donovan Mitchell's a lock. I mean, do you have any argument with any of those five? I can't see any universe where those guys don't make it.
No, I completely agree. I think Mitchell gets a chance to really show himself. He's a rising star in this league. We mentioned the 2 point guards already. Brook Lopez is interesting because he's really never been added to the player pool before. And I want to see how his game translates internationally. I don't know how it's going to go, but he did, step up his 3 point shooting. I want to see how he goes against a lot of these European big men who are just as finesse as he is. So I'll be interested to see how Popovich views Brook Lopez for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there were a couple other locks, but I think we actually disagree on a couple of them, which is kind of interesting, and that'll make for a good topic here. The next guys who I kind of thought were very, very close to being locks were Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, PJ Tucker, and Miles Turner. I felt those four were really close to locks. I mean, Smart, they need some wing type players. Same thing for Tatum. PJ Tucker is really to me like the perfect glue guy for this team. He can shoot, he can defend. They need some forwards. And then Miles Turner is really their big man. I mean, ultimately, depending on who else they pick up off this roster now, um, it depends a bit on how you feel about Andre Drummond, but not really a great defensive player. So, you know, while Brook Lopez is great blocking shots, he doesn't have the quickest feet at this point in his career. And I felt like he was probably close to a lock. I mean, are there any of those guys that you felt like maybe didn't belong?
So I think we agree on 8 of these because I have 4 that you don't. So I'm picking Harrison Barnes. I think he's a lock for this team because of his experience. He was on that 2016 Olympic gold medal winning team.
Hmm.
He's fallen off a little bit, but I know with Mike Krzyzewski and with Greg Popovich, they want guys that have experience playing overseas. And even if Harrison Barnes doesn't play much, I think because him and Kyle Lowry are the only two that have been there before, I think Barnes has to go based off of that merit.
I could see that. Yeah, I mean, I could certainly see. I had as my last kind of pick from the current team, and I'll get on that in a second. I'd put Jaylen Brown, but I think you're right. The more I think about it, I think you're probably right to have him in there over a guy like a Jaylen Brown for me. So I could accept that one for sure. I mean, what about the other guys? PJ Tucker, Jason Tatum, Miles Turner. Did you feel like those guys are solid contributors going to go on, or are there any of those that you would feel like maybe you'd rather have someone else?
So I have Tatum because I think he's going to be that athletic wing that's really going to help the U.S. I
Yeah,
also agree with Miles Turner kind of playing that hybrid role, backing up Brook Lopez. I think his game will translate internationally,
definitely.
but I don't agree with the PJ Tucker pick. I think his spot is going to go to
Oh,
Thaddeus Young based on veteran experience. Pop likes his vets. I think there's plenty of young guys on the roster with Mitchell, Smart. I also have Kyle Kuzma taking up my 11th spot on this roster. I think that he's going to have a lot to prove and trying to adjust to playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis once the season starts. I think if Kuzma can get a head start in the international game and play healthy, that will make his game that much better with the Lakers trying to win a championship next year.
okay. I think those all make sense. There was only one pick on your list that I was a little stunned by, which is your 12th guy who we'll talk about. I cheated a little bit here because I picked two guys from the select team, one of which I'm absolutely shocked is not on the team, and that's De'Aaron Fox. I am absolutely gobsmacked, stunned, just speechless that they don't have De'Aaron Fox on the team. I would not be surprised if of all the players we've mentioned on this team, the one who has the best season in the NBA next year is De'Aaron Fox. I think he's a stud. I am really shocked that they didn't put him on the team, so I think he would be a really good fit. I mean, can you think of any reason why De'Aaron Fox shouldn't be on this team, Jason?
I don't think he's ready yet. You know, they're point guard heavy with Kemba and Lowry. Do you really bring De'Aaron Fox in for the experience as the third point guard when you have a defensive specialist in Marcus Smart, who's more of a veteran? So I think Fox will be in the player pool and ultimately would have a shot at 2020. But when they're trying to qualify and just win the thing this year to get ready for Tokyo, I think Fox will get great experience playing for the select team. But I don't see anyone from the select team really getting picked this year because I think the grit of a lot of these players we're naming will outshine the youth trying to come up and just be part of that select team to practice against these guys.
Well, unfortunately, I tend to disagree here and end up with one more guy from the select team. And then this is a little bit of cheating, but I kind of did a hybrid choice here, which is I think if Jared Allen or John Collins, whichever one of them plays the best on the select team, I would probably take them. And one of the things you'll probably notice on my list is I tend to feel like the back end of this team should be younger guys who can take over in the future. And I think it would be a mistake to get too many veterans on this team when you want to try and build. And as I said, you want to try and attract these guys to come back year after year and kind of take pride in that. So for me, I thought De'Aaron Fox and either Jared Allen or John Collins. I mean, I think Collins would probably be my choice just because I think Collins is an absolute monster. I think he could be an all-star next year. He was unbelievable last year after the All-Star break. It took him a while to get back, but he averaged 20 and 10 after the All-Star break. His shooting looked a lot better. I think he is a sleeper to be an All-Star next year, and I think he'd be a great addition to this team.